Prioritizing yourself is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of self-respect, self-preservation, and conscious living. Most people drift through life believing their value comes from how much they give to others, how well they meet expectations, or how tirelessly they support everyone around them. But the truth is simple. When you don't place yourself at the center of your own life, everything around you eventually collapses. Your peace crumbles, your energy drains, and your sense of identity slowly dissolves into the noise of other people's needs. Prioritizing yourself means reclaiming your own life. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of emotional, physical, and mental energy. You are not a machine, and you are not designed to carry everyone else's burdens while ignoring your own needs. When you choose to pour into everyone else before taking care of yourself, you're sending a silent message to the world, and to your own mind, that your needs are less important, your feelings are secondary, and your voice doesn't matter. That belief becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes your life. But when you shift your mindset and begin thinking about yourself first, everything changes. Your boundaries become clearer, your relationships become healthier, and your confidence grows because you finally understand that you deserve the same care you so freely give to everyone else. Prioritizing yourself means checking in with your mind and your body. It means asking, what do I need today? What is draining me? What is feeding me? What am I tolerating that is costing me my peace? Most people never ask themselves these questions because they are conditioned to survive instead of live. But the moment you begin to honor your own needs, you step out of survival mode and into intentional living. You begin making choices based not on obligation, fear, or guilt, but on what aligns with your well-being and your growth. Thinking about yourself always also means breaking the habit of overextending yourself. You do not have to be available to everyone all the time. You do not have to explain your decisions or justify your boundaries. You do not owe anyone more of your energy than you can afford to give. When you prioritize yourself, you learn to say no without feeling guilty and yes only when it feels right. This is how you protect your inner world. This is how you keep your heart from becoming a dumping ground for other people's chaos. When you put yourself first, you begin to see life differently. You stop apologizing for needing rest. You stop feeling guilty for wanting peace. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that no longer suit you. You stop carrying relationships, jobs, and responsibilities that crush your spirit. The more you think about yourself, the more you learn to trust yourself, your intuition, your boundaries, your judgment. And when you trust yourself, you stop depending on external validation to feel worthy or capable. Choosing yourself is not about ignoring others. It's about honoring who you are before you attempt to be anything to anyone else. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot uplift others when you are depleted. You cannot be the strong one for everyone while neglecting your own healing. Prioritizing yourself is the foundation of a healthy, peaceful, and meaningful life. When you fill your own cup first, everything you offer to the world comes from abundance, not exhaustion. Your mind creates your reality. Your thoughts are not harmless background noise. They are the architects of your experiences, the unseen forces shaping your relationships, your opportunities, your confidence, and even the limits you place on yourself. Every thought you allow, whether empowering or destructive, has a direct role in building the life you're living right now. Most people never realize this. They move through their days thinking millions of thoughts without ever questioning them, without noticing how deeply those thoughts influence what they attract, how they react, and who they become. But the truth is simple and transformative. Your life becomes a reflection of whatever you consistently think about. When you hold thoughts of doubt, fear, or inadequacy, you filter the world through those lenses. You walk into situations expecting rejection, failure, or disappointment. And your mind will unconsciously guide you toward those outcomes because it seeks to confirm what it already believes. The mind hates being wrong. If you believe you're not capable, it will highlight every mistake. If you believe good things never happen to you, you'll overlook every opportunity. If you believe you're unworthy, you will sabotage relationships, push away blessings, and settle for less. You don't do this consciously. The mind simply brings your dominant thoughts to life. On the other hand, when you begin to think positively and powerfully about yourself, something remarkable happens. You start noticing possibilities instead of obstacles. You interpret challenges as stepping stones rather than setbacks. You begin to carry yourself differently, more confidently, more intentionally, more aligned with the future you want instead of the fears you're trying to escape. You attract better relationships because you no longer tolerate disrespect. You draw in opportunities because your energy shifts from self-doubt to self-belief. You elevate your life because you first elevated your thinking. Thinking boldly about yourself is not about fantasy. It's about alignment. It's about choosing thoughts that support your growth instead of those that crush your spirit. Your thoughts influence your emotions guide your actions, and your actions ultimately shape your life. A single shift in thought, I deserve better, I am capable, I am enough, can create a chain reaction that completely transforms your behavior and the results you create. Most people underestimate the power of their inner dialogue. They speak to themselves with words they would never say to someone they love. They criticize themselves more harshly than the world ever could. They rehearse past pain, replay past failures, and live inside stories that no longer serve them. But you can rewire this. You can interrupt the old patterns and choose thoughts that strengthen you instead of weaken you. It begins with awareness. When a negative thought appears, I'm not good enough, I'll fail, nothing ever works out, you don't have to accept it as truth. You can step back, observe it, and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? If it's hurting you, release it, and replace it with one that opens a better path. This is how you take back control of your inner world. This is how you sculpt a new identity with intention. Your thoughts are the steering wheel of your life. If you constantly think in circles of limitation, you will stay stuck. If you allow yourself to think in the direction of your dreams, your ideals, and your highest self, you create momentum that pulls your life forward. You are not stuck because life is unfair. You are stuck because your mind keeps returning to the same patterns. Change your thoughts and your life cannot stay the same. When your inner world expands, your outer world must rise to match it. Protecting your energy and setting boundaries. Protecting your energy and setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It is about choosing what you allow into your life, what you tolerate, and what you refuse to carry any longer. Most people live without boundaries, not because they don't need them, but because no one ever taught them how essential they are. They grow up believing that being kind means being endlessly available, that being helpful means saying yes to everything, and that being a good person means carrying burdens that were never theirs to begin with. But the moment you begin thinking about yourself as someone who deserves peace, respect, and emotional safety, you realize that boundaries are not walls. They are doors that you decide who and what walks through. People will always have expectations. They will want your time, your attention, your support, your energy, and they will take as much as you are willing to give. That's not cruelty. It's human nature. But you cannot allow other people's needs to consume your life. Without boundaries, every demand feels urgent, every request feels like an obligation, and every relationship becomes an emotional drain. You end up exhausted, overwhelmed, and resentful, not because people are taking too much, but because you aren't protecting yourself enough. Boundaries are your way of saying, my well-being matters, my time matters, my peace matters. The biggest misunderstanding about boundaries is that they are confrontational. But a boundary is not an argument. It is a decision. It doesn't require yelling, explaining, or defending. It simply requires clarity. Clarity about what you allow, clarity about what you reject, and clarity about what aligns with your emotional and mental health. When you say no to something that drains you, you are not being harsh. You are choosing yourself. When you tell someone that a certain behavior is not acceptable, you are not being difficult, you are honoring your worth. Every boundary you set is a declaration that you will no longer abandon yourself to make others comfortable. Protecting your energy also means being honest about the environments, conversations, and relationships that affect you. Not everyone deserves access to your mind or your emotions. Some people bring chaos disguised as urgency. Some bring negativity disguised as realism. Some bring manipulation disguised as care. When you protect your energy, you learn to see these patterns clearly. You stop absorbing the emotions of others. You stop letting people's moods dictate your peace. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop investing in relationships where you are the one doing all the giving. One of the strongest acts of self-love is learning to walk away. Walking away from conversations that drain you. Walking away from expectations that suffocate you. Walking away from people who cannot meet you with honesty, respect, or reciprocity. You don't have to fight, argue, or convince anyone. Protecting your energy is often silent. It is choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over approval. When you set boundaries, something beautiful happens. Your life becomes clearer. You begin to attract people who respect your space and value your time. You create emotional room to grow, heal, and breathe. You learn to give from abundance, not from exhaustion. You no longer feel guilty for resting, declining invitations, or choosing solitude. You understand that your energy is your most valuable currency, and you spend it wisely. Boundaries do not limit your life. They protect the life you are trying to create. They allow you to show up in your relationships with more authenticity, more strength, and more presence. When you protect your energy, you are not withdrawing from the world. You are ensuring that you remain whole enough to engage with it meaningfully. Understanding self-worth and letting go of validation. Your sense of worth cannot depend on how others see you, what they think of you, or how they respond to you. The moment your value becomes tied to outside approval, you lose the ability to stand firmly in who you are. You begin shaping yourself according to what others want, shrinking yourself to avoid criticism or stretching yourself to gain validation. But real self-worth is internal. It is built from the inside out, not handed to you by the world. When you realize that your worth is not up for negotiation, you stop living in reaction to people's opinions and start living in alignment with your truth. Most people go through life believing that their value is conditional. Conditional on success, appearance, relationships, achievements, or acceptance. They believe they must earn love, earn respect, earn attention, and earn belonging. This belief creates a constant feeling of being not enough, because the outside world is inconsistent and impossible to satisfy. One day people praise you, the next day they doubt you. One moment someone appreciates your presence, the next moment they take you for granted. When you depend on those shifting reactions to feel worthy, your identity becomes unstable. You start doubting your abilities, questioning your choices, and silencing your voice. All because you gave the world too much power over your heart. But when your sense of worth comes from within, everything changes. You stop tying your value to your performance. You stop seeking permission to be yourself. You stop apologizing for existing, for wanting more, for taking up space. You begin to understand that you are worthy simply because you exist. Nothing you achieve adds to that worth, and nothing you lose takes it away. You were born with inherent value, and the purpose of your life is not to prove your worth. It's to express it. Believing in your own worth shapes every decision you make. It influences the people you choose, the opportunities you pursue, and the standards you maintain. When you know your value, you don't tolerate disrespect. You don't stay in places where you are unappreciated. You don't accept relationships that diminish you. You don't settle for less because you understand that settling is a form of self-betrayal. Your life begins to reflect the confidence you hold within yourself, and the world responds to that energy. A strong sense of self-worth also protects you from comparison. You no longer measure your life against someone else's journey, because you recognize that your path is unique. You are no longer threatened by others' success because it does not diminish your own potential. Instead of feeling inferior or insecure, you feel inspired, grounded, and capable. You understand that someone else's light does not dim yours, and your growth does not require competing with anyone. Deep self-worth gives you permission to say no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what aligns with your spirit. It gives you the strength to set boundaries without guilt, to walk away from unhealthy situations, and to choose peace over approval. It allows you to take risks, try new things, and pursue big dreams because you are no longer afraid of failure. Failure does not define you. It simply teaches you. Rejection does not break you. It redirects you. Criticism does not shrink you. It sharpens you. When you truly believe in your own worth, you stop living life as a constant apology. You stop seeking acceptance like it's oxygen. You stop begging for appreciation. You understand that you are complete as you are, growing as you go, and deserving every step of the way. Your worth is not a question. It is a fact. And once you claim it, no one can take it away from you. What you focus on shapes your future. What you consistently focus on becomes the path your life follows. Your attention is like sunlight. Wherever you direct it, things grow. When you spend your days thinking about fear, limitations, or worst-case scenarios, you unintentionally water those thoughts until they become your reality. Your mind begins searching for evidence to support those beliefs. You notice obstacles more than opportunities, problems more than possibilities, and reasons to give up more than reasons to keep going. Your life moves in the direction of your mental habits, and if those habits are rooted in doubt or negativity, you'll constantly feel held back, even when nothing external is stopping you. But the reverse is just as powerful. When you start focusing on your goals, your potential, and the future you want to build, your mind shifts. It begins to notice resources you overlooked before. It highlights ideas, inspirations, and chances you previously ignored. You start making small decisions that pull you toward progress. You begin to act like someone who believes they deserve more. And your actions create the momentum that turns desires into reality. Focus is not magic, but it is magnetic. What you hold in your mind long enough eventually pulls your life in that direction. Every dream, every transformation, every major shift begins with a single thought that is rehearsed until it becomes a mental pattern. If your thoughts are scattered, your life becomes scattered. If your focus is fractured by distractions, negativity, or the opinions of others, your growth becomes inconsistent. But when your focus is intentional and aligned with your purpose, your life becomes more structured, more meaningful, and more empowered. You start to move with clarity instead of confusion, with confidence instead of hesitation. Focusing on what matters also means learning what does not deserve your attention. Not every argument, criticism, or conflict needs your energy. Not every opinion about your life is worth acknowledging. Not every fear deserves to be fed. Most people waste enormous amounts of mental energy thinking about things they cannot change, people they cannot control, and situations that don't elevate them. When you stop giving your attention to what drains you, your mind becomes lighter, clearer, and more capable of focusing on what strengthens you. Your focus shapes your emotional life too. When you fixate on past mistakes, you recreate the same pain. When you obsess over what you lack, you feel unworthy or unsatisfied. But when you focus on growth, gratitude, and the direction you're heading, your emotional energy rises. You begin to feel more grounded, hopeful, and in control. Emotions follow thoughts and actions follow emotions. This is why shifting your focus can reshape your entire life. It's also important to understand that focus is not always easy. The world is filled with distractions designed to pull your attention in 100 directions. People will try to involve you in their drama. Social media will try to make you compare yourself to others. Fear will try to convince you to play small. The mind naturally gravitates toward the familiar, even if the familiar is negative. This is why focus requires discipline. You have to remind yourself daily. This is where I'm going. This is what matters. This is what I choose to think about. Every time you bring your attention back to something meaningful, you strengthen that mental muscle. When your focus becomes aligned with your highest goals, life begins to feel more purposeful. You stop drifting. You stop doubting. You stop wasting energy on things that lead nowhere. You start building momentum. And momentum is what transforms small steps into major breakthroughs. You attract people, ideas, and experiences that match the direction of your thoughts. And even when challenges appear, you're no longer shaken because your focus isn't on the problem. It's on the outcome. Your life will always move toward whatever you think about most. Choose thoughts that elevate you. Choose a focus that reflects the future you want, not the past you've outgrown. When you direct your mind with intention, your life has no choice but to rise to meet it. How inner change leads to outer transformation. Everything in your outer world begins with what happens in your inner world. The life you experience is a mirror reflecting your mindset, your beliefs, and your emotional patterns. Many people try to change their circumstances by rearranging the external, switching jobs, ending relationships, moving to new places. But the same problems keep resurfacing because the internal landscape remains untouched. True transformation doesn't start with action. It starts with awareness. The moment you shift what's happening inside you, the world around you begins to shift in response. When you carry unresolved pain, insecurity, or fear, it shows up in your decisions. You settle for less because you don't feel worthy of more. You stay in unhealthy situations because you doubt your strength to walk away. You avoid opportunities because you're afraid of failing. You attract relationships that match your wounds, not your potential. Even when good things come your way, you may unconsciously sabotage them because internally you don't believe you deserve them. This is why inner healing, inner confidence, and inner clarity are essential. Without them, the outer world has no stable ground to build upon. But when you begin to change your inner world, everything else follows. When you build self-respect, you stop tolerating disrespect. When you develop courage, you stop being controlled by fear. When you cultivate a sense of peace, chaos no longer interests you. When you strengthen your self-worth, you attract relationships and opportunities that honor your value. The world responds to who you believe you are, not who you pretend to be. When you shift your identity from the inside, you shift the energy you carry, and that energy shapes your entire life. Inner change also brings clarity. As you become more aware of what you truly want, you stop chasing things that don't align with your purpose. You stop forcing connections, clinging to old habits, or repeating cycles that keep you stuck. You begin to make choices that reflect your potential instead of your past. You feel more grounded, more intentional, and more aligned with the direction you're meant to grow. This inner clarity becomes a compass guiding you toward opportunities that once felt out of reach. Another powerful aspect of inner transformation is emotional mastery. When you learn to regulate your emotions rather than react to them, you gain control over your life. You no longer allow anger to dictate your words or fear to dictate your choices. You stop giving power to anxiety, stress, or doubt. You become the one steering the wheel, not your impulses. This emotional stability creates a foundation strong enough to support big dreams and long-term growth. Inner change also requires letting go. Letting go of old stories that tell you you're not enough. Letting go of beliefs that limit your strength. Letting go of comparisons, resentment, and self-criticism. Letting go doesn't happen overnight. It happens moment by moment, each time you choose a new thought or a healthier perspective. But with each release, you create space for better things to grow. When you change inside, you begin to show up differently. You speak with more confidence. You walk with more purpose. You treat yourself with more kindness. You choose peace over conflict, growth over comfort, and truth over approval. People notice this shift. Opportunities align with this shift. Your entire reality reshapes itself around this shift. The world does not change first. You do. And because your inner world becomes stronger, clearer, and more empowered, your outer world naturally follows. Strong motivational ending. Real transformation begins the moment you understand that improving your life is not about controlling the outside, but mastering the inside. When you elevate your inner world, the rest of your life rises to meet you. In the end, everything comes down to one simple truth. Your life changes the moment you decide to think differently about yourself. The moment you stop waiting for permission, the moment you stop shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. The moment you stop apologizing for wanting peace, growth, and purpose. The moment you choose yourself, not once, not occasionally, but consistently, intentionally, and unapologetically. You are not here to live small. You are not here to silence your needs. You are not here to bend your entire existence around other people's expectations. You are here to rise into the strongest, clearest, most powerful version of yourself. And that begins within you. Think about yourself. Not because the world revolves around you, but because your world does. The quality of your mind becomes the quality of your life. The strength of your boundaries becomes the strength of your peace. The worth you hold inside becomes the worth the world reflects back to you. When you protect your energy, your life becomes lighter. When you honor your worth, your decisions become clearer. When you focus on your goals, your path becomes brighter. When you change inside, everything outside shifts. So choose yourself, back yourself, believe in yourself, stand with yourself. Because at the end of every day, you are the one person you will always return home to. And the moment you begin to think about yourself always, your needs, your growth, your peace, your dreams, you step into a life that finally feels like it belongs to you. This is your time. This is your turning point. Start within and watch everything transform.